Crime.
Let's do it one more time.
That was good.
I thought that was tight.
Yeah.
Fine, that's how the damn show starts then. Is a show where I, Rich Slayton, read a true story about lawbreakers.
And I, Rich Slayton, am a little bitch.
You're not Rich Slayton.
Oh, yeah, that's why I'm not a little bitch. I'm John Chesky.
Yeah.
His co-host,
Yes.
his assistant.
Hot start today.
I'm going to have a good time.
Oh, man, we are sizzling.
I told you I was going to tease you a
Let's
little.
play that fucking music.
Whoa, Slayton's mad.
Crime
Is the show that starts now.
now. Like right now?
Oh, yeah, do your line.
Okay. Each week, Rich reads a real crime story. I don't know a word that rhymes with story.
And my homie John always has the hot riff. He really loves it when you send...
Don't send anything to me. Don't you dare.
Podcast@gmail.com.
Don't you send
Label
anything.
it John Chesky. He loves them. Make sure the lighting's really good. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We all hugged. Everything is fine. It's been a while since that intro on the first half happened.
Yeah, we recorded that weeks ago. Now we're buddies
totally,
again.
Everything is totally smooth. And
JK, fuck you, Slayton. Go.
Before we get into the show today, let's thank our sponsor, who we love and adore, C3 Risk and Insurance Services.
Guys, we're all about to die at the hands of some dictator, right?
Probably.
But before that happens,
Korea.
let's make sure that in case our house gets flooded, our stuff's taken care of, right? That's why you got to see Joe Earl.
At C3 Risk and Insurance Services, go to c3insurance.com. He'll take care of your home, auto, whatever kind of insurance needs, nuclear weapon insurance, which we may or may not have, but you should get.
Yeah, radiation insurance. It's going to be hot in 2018. Got to get it.
If you get a policy with them, they'll give you a $25 gift card to Amazon.com, and you can go buy most of an Echo Dot. Not an entire one, because it's like 30-something bucks.
But you can get half of it and then put the rest of your cash in.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Sell a kitten.
C3 Risk and Insurance
Tell him
Services.
Shefsky sent you. He loves me.
Oh, yeah, I know. He loves him way more than the guy who's known him since we were 4.
That's ironic, right? That really says a lot about Slayton's character. All right,
Today we have some really cool guests. We have a returner, and we might know one of these two guests from a podcast known as Punch Drunk Sports that has some people that we like on it. And we also have a great new show to promote today, 92.7 The Pod.
The Pod.
So please put your virtual hands together for Jayson Thibault and Sara Lehmann.
All right.
Hello.
What's up?
Dude, you guys went so up on that.
Sarah's really playing the Jewiness, huh?
Hello. 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 Hello.
I'd like to remind our listeners that Shefsky and I are both Jews, so we can say whatever we want about Jews.
Well, that makes it sound like we can't say the
Also,
shit we've been saying about
we're
other
both
races
Native
and
Americans.
cultures.
I'm the only
So we can say whatever
non-Jew.
we want.
I'm the only one that can't Jew
Jay's
out.
outnumbered.
Tebow, let me
guys.
give you a knighting.
Nothing to see here.
Let me give you a
If
little
you want to
knighting.
hear lots of virulent anti-Semitism, please tune in to Punch Drunk Sports every
Absolutely.
Tuesday.
Don't forget the misogyny
Oh, yeah, no, it's some of the best, like high-level
and racism. Yeah.
just the way God intended.
If you get it out through humor, then you can be a decent human in real life.
Roy and Ray DeAutremont.
Here we go.
We don't.
This is where we kick it off. You start reading this shit, and then we just chime in with questions, right? That's the lay of the land.
Questions are one type
Yeah.
of statement you can make. That's
Have you ever
absolutely
thought
true.
about doing this to somebody that actually like surprised them with their own crime that they didn't even know anybody knew about?
That is the best idea.
Jayson Thibault.
And then I'm just like, okay.
Tell you stuff you don't even know.
right. Yeah.
Roy and Ray were both born on March 30th, 1900 in Williamsburg, Ohio.
Did you say Roy and Ray?
Roy and Ray DeAutremont.
Oh, it's just two people.
They're twins
Born where? Virginia?
in Williamsburg, Ohio.
Oh, right.
Which is the same as Virginia if you're from California. You're like, Ohio, Virginia.
Yeah. I'm like,
It's not-
over there somewhere.
Yeah, it's not Toluca
1900.
Lake.
Okay, right.
The boys were the second and third boys born to Paul DeAutremont and his wife, Belle.
She
Dad-
sounds like trouble.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dad worked as a barber, and money was very, very tight. Looking for greener pastures, the family briefly moved to Arkansas, where Belle...
It's called punching down, is what they call that. This can't get any worse. Yes, it can.
where Belle gave birth to a fourth brother, Hugh, on February 21st, 1904.
You said, oh, there's 4 kids now?
There's 4 boys, 3 of which we care about. They have an older brother named Vern, but we don't really care about Vern.
Okay.
Roy, Ray, and Hugh are the ones that we really care about.
Okay. Vern sounds like he's just off on his own. He's going to have a successful life.
He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Gave birth to Hugh on February 21st, 1904. Despite the nickname the Land of Opportunity, the family found little of that in Arkansas and moved again to Cripple Creek, Colorado.
That sounds like a real good place if you're looking at a map. Cripple Creek.
I know.
Let's
I
raise
know.
the
I
kids
wonder
there.
who lives there.
Yeah,
Well,
no
it's
kidding.
a fun note that it was named that because that's where parents would drown their kids if they were cripples, so they
You
wouldn't
are
be a burden
joking.
to the family.
You are joking right now, right?
Probably not.
That sounds pretty legit.
I hope. You know what? It's not. I don't know if that's true, but I really hope it is.
That's not even a good time to have a limp in then.
Right.
Like you need to twist your ankle. You're like, I'm fine.
Don't let
I'm
that
fine.
see. Don't let that see.
I'm
no, just my
fine.
toe. I just tubbed my toe. It's not a big deal.
Right.
God, I would have been
Gimp
dead so
Cliff.
long ago.
Gimp Cliff.
Down the road.
Their mom gave birth to a fifth child who we also don't care about.
Thanks for telling us about that.
Just letting you know for a minute that we only care about.
three
I'm
fifths.
Richard
The
Slayton.
twins,
I'll be
Roy
your
Ray.
confuser for the evening. There's about 48 people in this story. We won't care about
There
the
are
rest of them.
5 boys.
We'll go through all of them in non-consecutive order.
With 5 boys to feed, Dad was forced to supplement his barbering with painting and wallpapering work,
Oh my God.
but it still wasn't enough to support the family.
Just has to learn how to stop coming.
I didn't even.
Inside of somebody.
Yeah, I know. You ever heard of pulling out, feller?
Every time he's coming inside of his wife, he has to get a new job.
Sorry, Rich's mom.
All right,
Oh, well, I better get a paper route now.
So worth it.
Sorry, Mrs. Slayton.
Oh, now I'm a barista as
A
well.
lot of nut jokes here today.
Exactly.
Did you say he was a wallpaper? I didn't even know that was an
Painting and
industry for that.
wallpapering, yeah.
Now I'm a cobbler.
Mom and Dad fought all the time.
course.
You think?
So when Dad found some promotional brochures describing the fertile valleys of Lakewood, New Mexico, he bought a plot of land sight unseen. The family piled into a covered wagon and traveled 800 miles to discover a barren desert.
That's badass, dude. Get your
this
dirt bikes
guy.
ready. Crack open a few beers.
This guy's.
Land in New Mexico? How could this
Build
go
a track.
wrong?
I know.
Farming was practically impossible, but Mom insisted that they try anyway.
What year was this again?
1900.
This is early 1900s right now. This is like 1910-ish.
This is like the pre-story of Breaking Bad.
So this is like I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
You old piece of shit.
Yeah, all of your bracelets were actually made by this family. So
Of course. I remember these. I remember them.
Mama Bell knitted your sweater.
Just to let the listeners know, Thibault has a lot of bracelets again.
Yeah. there
He
you go.
always does.
Thank you.
He never lets us down. He's like Big Bird's ankles on his wrists.
Exactly.
That's exactly what
Right?
it's like.
And I mean that in the most sincere compliment. Big Bird's one of my fucking
take it.
favorites. Okay, cool.
No, I lived with them for a while.
Okay.
It did not go well.
What didn't go well? The move?
The farming.
New Mexico?
Not only were they trying to farm in the desert, but what little water they had was regularly stolen by actual cowboys. The fighting got worse. After a while, Dad went out for cigarettes all the way back to Colorado.
Oh, man.
I mean,
That's the ultimate.
In his defense, that's probably the closest place to get cigarettes back to where they were.
It sounds like it.
it's the only place that's open at this hour.
I'll be back in 8 months.
Well, it's been 9, still haven't seen him. It's a little late.
Does he call from the liquor store? You have a collect call.
You have a collect telegram from.
Oh, yeah,
This is your
telegrams.
son, real quick. Just
Wait,
come
our
pick me up.
phone's not invented? You says 1906.
I don't think there's phones are like regular.
Yeah,
It's a collect
1906.
pigeon, you guys.
Yeah.
Like
Messenger
courier
pigeon. Yeah.
Now, I do think it's hilarious that they took a covered wagon down to New Mexico still in the 1900s.
Well, that's like if you had a 91 Nissan Sentra now.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? It's just your old car is the wagon. I'm not getting a new one until this one's really fucking done. I'm going to run it into the ground.
Mom tried to make a go of it on her own, but it wasn't long before she packed up her boys and reunited with Papa. The family stayed together for another couple of years before the fighting again became intolerable.
Don't you wonder how that happened? You know, let's say me and my girlfriend break up, or let's say I get a divorce, or I leave my wife.
Sure.
You can keep tabs on somebody. There's not many exes that I don't know where they are and what's going on in their life. Nowadays. Back then, how the fuck did she even know he was in Denver
There's
or
like,
whatever?
There's like
How did-
140 people in the country that
how did
like,
they
have you
reunite?
seen Tim?
How did they
have you seen
reunite?
Tim? People will be like, oh, that's Tim.
Which one, tall Tim or short Tim?
Yeah, the guy with the dark hair. Well, there's 3 people with dark hair, and 2 of them are dead. He's right there.
See,
Like, how did she track him down? That's when you know you love somebody, when you can
He
track them
probably-
down without anything.
Love them or
Nothing.
need their help real quick while these fucking 10
It
kids.
does. In these days, that was synonymous.
Yeah.
Love meant we are going to live an extra year because we help each other.
I do get the opinion that he did like the boys.
That he didn't like the boys, or he
But
did?
he liked his sons. So like he was not into
Yeah.
him, but like he liked it. He was a
Yeah.
father.
I
You know
feel
what
like he telegrammed them when he got there and was like, yeah, I mean, I started walking and I ended up here. If you guys want to come back, like
Yeah.
at some point,
Yeah.
I'll see you then.
When the fighting again became intolerable, it was now Mom's turn to leave. and she headed back to New Mexico.
Jesus, these two.
All right, so these kids are all going to be criminals. Their parents are turning them into latchkey kids.
Soon after, Dad joined up to give the marriage one last chance.
I haven't busted a nut in 6 months. Fuck it.
I need a new job.
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say that.
Of course, the fighting came back, so in 1916, the twins decided it was their turn to get out.
Jesus, this is like a Dr. Phil in 1900 episode.
Seeking to make their fortunes, the boys headed to Oklahoma, where they waited tables to put themselves through barber school.
Oh, yeah, it worked so well for Dad. Let's follow in his shit footsteps.
Hopefully I find some woman that hates me.
It didn't take long for them to learn that Dad had once again skipped out on Mom. So Ray headed home to help out on the dirt farm. It took him 6 months to remember that Lakewood sucked before he decided to explore the country by riding the rails.
Oh, he's becoming a hobo?
That
was-
old gig.
Oh, yeah.
I've romanticized that.
I feel like you have ridden the rails.
Of course, yeah.
Someone told me-
You need to play a hobo in a movie, like, now.
Yeah.
Where are these casting agents?
Isn't that how you get around L.A.?
Riding the rails?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a train that only Tebow gets to ride.
Tebow just runs and jumps out of the back of an Uber and hangs on.
It's more than eating the soup out of a boot that I'm into.
I like that part.
It's the cut-off gloves, the scarves, the mystery,
It was
trash
on,
can fires,
It was on
the
those,
gay sex,
Yeah.
It was on those.
the gay sex.
the double gay sex.
It was.
You said gay sex 7 times. I know. I
just
like gay
emphasizing
sex.
It was on those free rides on freight trains where Ray first learned about socialism.
Oh God.
Oh, here's where this goes.
Is this the story of Bernie?
Before long, he got a job at a shipyard in Portland, Oregon, as a member of the International Labor Union, the Industrial Workers of the World, also known as the Wobblies.
Let's call him by a different acronym.
So this guy starts riding the rails, starts taking political advice from hobos, and it
Yep.
changes his life.
Completely. You could not even begin to understand how much this hobo advice completely changes his life.
Also, side note, that pot sucker just hit me right now. So
Strong.
that was with the laugh. Go ahead, continue.
The Wobblies were controversial for a number of reasons. Not
Their
li-
name.
Yes.
Being goofy and
Terrible
not taken
picking
seriously
names.
by anybody in the square world. Get out of here, you fucking wobbly! They shoot him with like a fire
Well, I
hose.
just wanted to get some socialism. Can we get equal pay for our work?
You've messed with the wrong group. The Wobblies are after
Let's
you.
go on strike.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy, but
So
you know.
unstable.
Not least of which, their controversial number of reasons, not least of which being their mix of socialist, anarchist, and Marxist philosophies.
They were into punk rock. They drank 40s, right? These guys are cool.
It was also, at the time, the only American union to accept everyone. Immigrants, blacks, Asians, even women.
Thank you for pointing at me.
Well, I thought that you want to be a wobbly. I was trying to put,
I?
yeah.
I put the W in wobbly.
There you go.
Not too bad.
They were just oblies
You put
before
the
women were in.
womb. You put the womb in wobbly.
They actually added different letters for each. They're like, well, you were the ollies, but we added blacks, so now it's oblies. And then women came in, it was the wobblies.
All right, we're gonna have to
Do you
delete
think
that
the
part.
wobbly
We
H
gotta
came
edit that
from
part out.
them?
That's my
The
favorite.
what?
The wobbly H?
What's a wobbly
Think
H?
you guys don't know what the wobbly H is?
I do
Did it
not.
dance?
What is it?
It's a sexual position.
What is it?
wobbly
Describe
It
it.
involves one girl and 2 guys, the wobbly H.
Oh, the spigot.
Or the Eiffel Tower.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The wobbly H.
I thought
I
it was
got it. I've never heard it called
now
that.
I'm visualizing
I thought
that.
it was
It's-
putting it on
It's
rotisserie.
more whimsical than the Eiffel Tower, I'll tell you that much. Not as romantic, though.
Yeah, the wobbly H sounds funny. It sounds like you could actually then ride on top of it's like one of those horsies outside of a fucking Kmart.
That's the 4th person.
yeah.
That's a person who doesn't know what to do in the orgy.
I'm married. I can't really have sex with any of you, but can I ride on it?
It's called the wobble horse.
I'm just on top.
I feel like this deserves a second sorry, Mom, from my mother.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it does.
Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom. The Wobblies regularly clashed with authorities and other competing unions, sometimes violently. They gained more notoriety when the union came out in opposition to World War I. Outraged that anyone would oppose good, money-making war, the federal government passed the Espionage Act in 1917,
Now, you wrote that with a lot of opinion. This is an op-ed episode, isn't
using
it?
it to conduct raids on Wobblies all over the country.
If this turns out,
I know,
Right?
yeah, that's
Don't
all
you
I
gotta
can think
feel like
now.
it sounds like feds arresting Teletubbies?
Or, or
if this ends with your dad being this ends with your dad being a wobbly, I'm gonna be very disappointed.
In Chicago,
If it wobbles, put some handcuffs on it. I want it in my office.
just put a sugar packet under one of the legs.
Wobble with me. In Chicago,
One of the
101.
hands.
In Chicago, 101 current and former members were sentenced to prison for, quote, conspiring to hinder the draft and encourage desertion. That same year, 17 Wobblies were arrested for the crime of not owning war bonds.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that was apparently a crime, to not own a war bond.
So everybody in America had to buy a war bond?
At least in this part of Kansas, I think it was.
Let me see your war bond.
They, along with the 5 men who testified in their defense, were turned over by the cops to the Ku Klux Klan, where they were promptly tarred and feathered.
The cops use the Klan as their homeboys?
Yeah. Isn't that what they do now?
Oh, of course. They were always in that rinky-dink shit.
What the fuck?
I was always very scared of when I was a kid, my biggest fears were the Ku Klux Klan and spiders and quicksand.
Those are your 3 biggest
And I didn't
ones?
live anywhere where there was quicksand, but anytime I'd be in the woods, I'd be like, man, I'm not getting tricked by no fucking quicksand.
If you saw a spider in robes, like, that's just the worst.
But the Ku Klux Klan really wasn't like part of the world that I grew up, and I had like lesbian parents, and I was the only man in the house, and I was 12, so I'm like, fuck, man, if the Klan shows up, I don't want to have to fight the Ku Klux Klan.
It's my job to fight the Klan.
I can't beat all
I
of them
feel like
up.
at least one of your moms punches harder than you do, though.
Not at that time, but yeah, definitely now.
Fair enough.
They get stronger
Yeah.
with age. The lesbian's like a fine wine.
It really
right?
is.
More robust.
So
Couldn't
cool.
be further from the truth.
On November 11th, 1919.
They bench way more now than they ever could. You're like, no. They keep progressing. They don't stop.
Put more weights on,
You gotta
Jay.
see the veins in my mom's arms.
November 11th, 1919, Ray DeAutremont joined the Wobblies for a protest in Centralia, Washington, which happened to interrupt an Armistice Day parade by a veterans group, the American Legion. A fight broke out, then gunshots. When it was all over, 4 Legionnaires and a deputy sheriff were dead. The next day, the state ordered
So the Wobblies all survived.
Yeah, well, for now. For now, they survived.
Someone got injured in this?
Well, hold on. The next day, the state ordered the arrest of anyone carrying a wobbly card, including Ray.
Here's my card.
Now, I didn't include this in here, but there's a note that one of the Wobblies who shot a Legionnaire,
I shot the Legionnaire.
he was arrested, and then miraculously the next morning, he appeared hung and shot from a bridge the next morning, despite having been in jail that night.
Wait, so they shot him and hung him?
Oh, yeah. They weren't taking any
Wait,
chances.
the cops did this?
They didn't want to wobble out of
The
that
cops
death, you
did
know?
this?
I wonder why they did that.
I think the cops sort of like opened the doors and went for a cigarette break, is kind of what I got.
Yeah.
Like I get if you
I get what
hang
you're
somebody off a bridge and then you're like, hey man, let's go see if we can shoot him as target practice.
You know, I don't know if
But
they
if you
shot him
already
first.
shot him, why hang him then?
I'm not sure which one.
They hung him and
In
then
the
shot
old
him
days,
while
they
he was
used,
hanging.
they used to
That's
draw
what I
and
was
quarter you. They would like cut your intestines out. You'd die, and then they'd still cut you up, just like to insult your body, because they'd just be like, "It's mean." Like they stick your
Yeah.
dick in your
Angry.
mouth. You're weird.
And it's a warning to everybody else.
They were old. They like to like horrify people, and like they're just trippy in the old days, right?
18-year-old Ray planned a jailbreak out the kitchen door.
This is only 100 years ago, by the way.
Yeah. But made the mistake of inviting a fellow inmate to go with him. Right as they were about to make a run for it, his friend panicked, drawing the guard's attentions.
Most people don't say it's only 100 years ago. He caught me off guard there.
They were immediately caught, and the attempt was added onto their charges, landing Ray a 1-year sentence.
Which in the old days equals now how many
55 years.
55 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roy, still in Oklahoma, heard of his twins' arrest and headed to the Northwest to lobby on his behalf. When that didn't work, Roy settled in Salem, Oregon, taking a job at his father's new barbershop. But after a few months, he was forced to quit because of his failing eyesight.
Oh, it's a bummer.
Nah, nothing worse than a barber can't see.
He doesn't cut the hair. He's just like, yeah, all right, that'll be $8. The guy's like, you didn't cut my hair. He's like, I didn't. Huh?
Oh, well.
Thank
So-
you for playing along with me there. Oh well.
So he took... That was... You're an arm barber.
Well, I don't
Stop
fuck around. I wanted to show you what a barber really does.
So he took a job earning $57.50 a month, plus room and board, at the state mental hospital.
all right, so we have 3 brothers now. One of them's in jail.
Ray is currently in jail for being a wobbly.
Okay.
Roy has moved to Oregon.
Quit barbering
Quit
because he's
blind
going
barbering.
blind barber.
And now he works in a mental institution.
Okay, that's
And
natural
Hugh,
progression.
Hugh, we're gonna get to in a minute. We're not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hugh's younger than they are. He's still living with mom in New
I'm
Mexico.
just
right
trying to keep us and our listeners up to
And so
up
now,
to
yeah,
speed.
and now Roy works at the state mental hospital.
Totally cool.
After his release in May of 1921, Ray moved in with Roy at a boarding house in Salem. But unlike his brother, he couldn't find work. So he went back to riding the rails, hoping to give his life some direction.
The sweet life.
He returned a few months later with a plan.
It's a wobbly world, baby.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to miss out.
He and Roy would rob a bank.
Hell
Yes.
yeah. Fuck. This is when the story gets good. Bank robbery.
On July 2nd, 1922, Ray and Roy sat across from the bank in Yakult, Washington. They spent all day observing what they knew would be an easy target.
Yep.
Despite pouring rain made worse by a cold wind, they kept watch, waiting for the one local police officer to take his dinner break at 5:30.
God, the old days were so cool if you were a criminal.
Oh, I know.
It was like a really easy Indiana Jones tunnel. Like, just wait. That one thing's got to move out of the way, and we walk right through it. Oh, it's so simple.
Watch out for the rolling boulder.
Yeah.
You mean the pebble over there?
And that's it.
I mean, shit.
Even if it's a giant rolling boulder, like, we just got to time that one thing, then we have only 35 minutes to get through that hallway. Like, it was so simple.
As they sat, soaked to the bone, hours into their stakeout, a large Buick pulled up to the doors of the bank. It took the boys a moment to realize that they were watching someone else rob it.
What? I've never heard of that before.
I also want to know why they were out in the weather. Why weren't they sitting in a car?
They didn't
they didn't have
rob
a
a bank yet. They're broke.
They didn't have,
Or under like an
Or
awning or
umbrella,
something.
or,
Yeah.
like-
An umbrella, yeah. Anything.
Well, this is
Did they have ponchos
1922.
back then?
I don't know if you've been to Yakult, Washington now, but
Beautiful.
1922 Yakult probably didn't have a whole lot of like, oh, here's a coffee shop. Go to the Starbucks and take a
I mean,
load
they had a
off.
bank.
They did.
One cop.
I know, Slayton.
Somebody driving a Buick around town.
Do you mind if I touche for you?
The
They
Buick.
had a bank. Why wouldn't they have a Starbucks?
Fair enough.
Okay.
That's a good point.
But seriously though, they couldn't have umbrellas. They were broke. in the old
Dejected,
days.
the boys returned home.
Before we bought.
Can you imagine sitting there all day,
That's a
casing a
bummer.
place, and then someone else goes and, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breaks
You're
your
like,
heart.
you're sitting there like waiting to get up the energy to go ask a girl out, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
like someone else comes and asks her out, and you're like, if I just had not sat
She's
here.
like, I've been
cold
waiting all day for somebody to rob me. The bank, I mean.
Dejected, the boys returned home. The next day, they decided to try the town of Seaside, Oregon. But as they cased the bank and discussed the team that stole
Someone
their
else
robbery,
robbed it again.
they decided it would be unwise to try without a getaway car.
Oh, yeah. I guess they didn't think that through the first time either.
That is, well, thank you very much. We're just going to take
Power-
a left or a...
Power walk out of here.
Hey, you guys just hold on for a second while we're going to stretch before we run away.
Is it a left or a right to the motel?
Just want to make sure that we don't pick up a cramp as we're trying
They're
to.
just like,
Hey, boss, are we making a
Like
deposit or taking a withdrawal? What are we doing here again?
You know what? At this point, I'm kind of confused. We've been here. It takes so long to get here. I forgot if we were trying to rob the place or put our money in.
Well, what do you think we should do?
Man, we really should just go back and get a car. That's a good start.
We need money to get a car. It's like that Alice Cooper song. You know, can't get a
man.
car because I didn't rob a bank. Can't rob a bank because I don't have a car.
Oof. Well, I guess we'll do what happens next. They put an end to their plan since neither of them could drive.
That's what happened.
Oh, stop. That's like Sarah and I being like, you know what, we need a helicopter. And then we talk about it for a while. We're like, can you fly a helicopter? No. Can you? Well, okay, what are we going to do next?
They left, walking until they reached another small town. Hungry and tired, they decided on a more simple robbery.
These motherfuckers get a lot of steps in, I will say that.
if they had Fitbits back
Fitbits,
then,
yeah. I was gonna say, man,
they'd be blowing their daily
Yeah.
goals.
these wobblers, they're just burning so many cows.
How many wobbles you get a day?
It's got the wobble meter. My wobble meter says like 3,400. I should be way thinner.
My wobble meter says tilt. It's hard to say wobble meter.
Hey guys, it's so fun to rob a bank. Having noticed a small candy shop with tons of customers, the boys planned to wait until nightfall and
To
rob the
steal all that
shopkeep
candy.
as he walked home.
Okay.
They hid in a ditch across the road and waited.
Give me all your licorice whips, mister.
The plan might have worked except for one problem. As the shopkeeper left the candy store and made his way home, the boys were fast asleep.
They slept,
These
they
guys.
These
slept
guys
through
are the
it?
worst
The
criminals.
dumbest
They
guys.
slept through it?
They fell asleep in a ditch.
You've been reading about how they tried to, they attempted a crime.
They haven't pulled off one heist
So
yet.
far, they've done nothing wrong.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They should just give up.
When they woke up the next morning, they had to look for food in the garbage.
They spent the whole night in the ditch. No one woke up like 20 minutes late and was like, "Oh fuck,
We're in a ditch.
they're like, God, I got good at 8. How'd you do?
We were supposed to do something, weren't we? What were we supposed to do?
I mean,
Get a car. Oh no, learn to drive. What was it?
they're probably drinking moonshine or something, right? I mean, this is the old days. They're broke. They're probably drunk.
Ray and Roy spent the rest of the summer working with their older brother Vern as lumberjacks.
Oh, Vern.
Things were okay. Roy even met a girl, Dorothy. They went on trips together and had professional photographs taken on a trip to Albany.
Oh. Sounds serious.
Back in New Mexico, Hugh DeAutremont was just about to finish high school in the spring of 1923. Hugh was the opposite of his brothers. He was smart, popular, and athletic. He was captain of the basketball team, a yearbook editor, and president of the A Club, which I don't know what that means. I looked it up for like half an hour.
People that get A's, they join the A club.
Probably.
I don't know if that's true.
He seemed destined for success.
I think they club seals.
I think I like that one a lot. He seemed destined for success until Ray showed up on the rails and convinced young Hugh to move to Oregon and help his brothers pull off one big, perfect
He
crime.
convinced his brother that was going to lead a good life and do the right thing to fucking drop that and come be a fucking moron with them.
Yeah, you're my brother.
Yeah,
Come be
you
my
need
brother, brother.
You need a smart criminal
Good point.
in your team of criminals.
That actually is a good move. You're right. Because they were like, look, all three of us are dumb as fuck. And we've been screwing everything up. Let's get the only smart one that we got.
We need a
coming
genius.
here.
Does someone have a high school diploma that we know?
Yep. Do we know anybody in the A club?
By the way, I'm pretty sure the A Club is a Canadian club.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The
Maple syrup.
club, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
The three DeAutremont brothers spent the summer of 23 working at a logging camp by day and debating plans at night.
Did they become masters of debating?
I bet that's a real meeting of the minds.
The Big
there.
Club?
They were big fans of Roy Gardner, who had gained national fame for his recent train robberies.
And he's got the same name.
So despite the fact that their hero was currently serving 25 years in federal prison,
Because he failed. He wasn't that fucking good.
well, we'll probably do Roy Gardner's story at some point. He was good.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah,
I retract.
don't insult him. Jeez.
I retract.
Don't insult that criminal that we're going to talk about in the future.
Okay.
They decided that despite having zero actual experience as criminals, that they could successfully rob a train mail car. At first, it was all talk, until they all lost their jobs when the union went on strike. So Hugh, Ray, and Roy set their plan in motion. They bought a getaway car. Someone learned how to drive. I don't know when that happened.
What must have been
It was probably Hugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some weapons under a fake name.
Are their parents like at all upset? Like, hey, where's Hugh? He's doing
I
good in
imagine they're
school.
splitting up somewhere
I
in
mean,
some other
By
city.
the way, they're gonna rob a mail car. Like, what are they gonna do? Open every letter?
No, that's what
This
it
is
was. In
actually
the
what
old
they-
days, people would send money.
Yeah.
this-
So
this-
there was a
their
lot of
thing.
mail in the mail car.
Yeah, I mean, come on, jeez.
God,
why,
did-
why would
did
you?
money.
Why
did
would
you
you
live
even
in the
riff on that when you know
1920s?
the facts?
Money.
They can't all be full of money.
A lot of it, I bet, was though.
You gotta go through all those
But there were a
letters to-
lot of grandmas and birthdays in those days.
I almost did the same one, but you got it to it first.
Are you serious?
Mhm, I had it queued up. I was ready to go. Proud of you, man.
That's what shows does to
We're
me.
friends.
It really is fucking sweet sometimes. The only man that could ever please me. What's this, the guy who reads the stories for this podcast?
They made sure to file
Yeah.
off the series.
Stupid.
baby.
What a dumb podcast.
Yeah.
They made sure
Dude,
to.
if I can get one person every episode to say, what a dumb podcast, I've done my job.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Oh, I'm sorry, I slammed the table.
They made sure to file the serial numbers off the guns so they couldn't be traced.
Fuck yeah, ain't gonna catch
Classic
me this
move.
time.
Then they stole dynamite from a local construction site.
Something you don't see used in crimes that much anymore.
Not anymore.
Dynamite, yeah. That's how.
Back then, dynamite was all the craze.
People don't even say the word dynamite anymore. You notice that?
Yeah.
They don't even say it.
I say it every day. They took their dad. Oh, not took their dad. They told their dad they were going hunting before setting out to a small shack in the woods in the Siskiyou Mountains.
So these guys
Right
are lying
near
to
the
their
train tracks.
parents and doing this as a team?
Yeah, they're like, "Hey, yeah, Dad. You tell Dad that we're staying the night at John's house, and I'll say we're staying the night at Mary's house, and
Let's
they
put the
won't know where
ski
we
masks
are."
on the duffel bags.
Oh, we're going skiing. Didn't you see the piles of wood that we have, the planks
Oh, yeah.
and straps?
yeah.
It's going to be great.
That's great.
Yeah, just don't telegram Bob's dad because he's really upset about it.
Uh-huh.
But-
He's got to get up early in the morning.
Yeah. Whew.
And then he just gets in a fight with their mom, and then they just run off.
Their plan seemed simple. Before
doubt
making
that.
the steep descent into California, all southbound trains had to stop for a brake check at Tunnel 13.
Oh, Tunnel 13. That's what they made the movie about.
As it turned out, a mail train known as the Gold Special passed through that way frequently.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, its official designation was Train 13. They were planning to rob Train 13 in Tunnel 13.
Uh-oh.
Is
Was it a
any-
Friday? Was it a Friday?
Is anybody here superstitious at all?
No.
Yeah, probably should be.
Are you guys superstitious?
I mean, I can be in different things, but I am going to think this is less superstition with these guys other than because of their track record. They're the dumbest fucking criminals I've heard of so far.
I mean, I think they're pretty great. I encourage all our listeners to try this out. It's going to be a fun plan.
So how'd it go?
Eventually, they decided it would be too risky to use the getaway car.
Oh, there you have it.
It would be better to lay low at the cabin for a few days.
Very smart.
Hugh would drive the car back to Dad's.
And the cabin's way better than a ditch. Last time they laid low in a ditch.
Even if you sleep through something,
Yeah.
you're in a cabin, right?
They're on the come up.
Exactly.
You're
Yeah.
just on vacation.
Hugh would drive the car back to Dad's where it would wait until the coast was clear. Then Ray would ride the rails to pick it up before swinging.
ride the rail. Say that 25 times. Ray would ride the rail.
Hold on, I can do it. Ray would ride the rails
Nice.
to pick it up before swinging back to grab his brothers and the loot. But as Hugh drove the car home, he hit a cow.
Oh. Steak tartare.
He waited 3 days while the car was fixed, dropped it off, and headed back to meet his brothers. But he was stopped by a railroad agent. I can't say railroad is a fucked up word.
rural juror.
A railroad.
The funny is, you've read so many pages so articulately. I couldn't have done that. I would have had a meltdown.
Yeah.
But then you get to railroad and you really become a bumbling idiot.
You got a wobbly tonsil right there, boy.
Hey, maybe a tonsil's a wobbler.
He's not the railroad agent. Oh, see, I can do it if I do it in the
Yeah,
wobbly voice.
just do a voice every time you
Yeah.
say
Just
railroad.
Go back to
I
page
prefer
one.
that.
Go back to
Start
page
at the
one.
beginning.
Start over.
Go from the top. He was stopped by a railroad agent who thought he looked suspicious. See, it works. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ray and Roy, thinking Hugh had abandoned them, decided to do a practice run at night to make sure they could pull it off with just 2 people. Ray jumped on the train easily, but Roy miscalculated, banged his knee, and fell off the train.
Oh, that sounds fucking painful. Steel on the knee.
Bring in the stunt man.
That night at the Leaky Shack, they decided that if Hugh wasn't back...
Sounds like a gay bar, by the way.
The Leaky Shack?
I'll see you at the Leaky Shack.
Hey, meet me in the back of the leaky shack with your mouth open.
So what's the
We'll do the
problem,
wobbly
guys?
H. Right? Just me and a couple of the boys wobbling the H.
Hanging out.
Hey, fellas, this looks like a fun bar to go. I mean, why do you think they call it that? Because the roof, like, rain gets through? That seems...
Exactly.
Can I mix you a drink? A face fuck on the beach?
Hey, where
Maybe
are all-
a fucking AIDS?
where are all the
Would you like an
girls in
AIDS
this bar?
martini? I don't know.
I thought we were going to go have some fun, trying to get laid.
Where are all the girls in this bar? Oh, there are girls. Then a bunch of guys come out and fuck your mouth. Go on with your story.
That night at the Leaky Shack, they decided that if Hugh wasn't back by Monday evening, now it's just a gay bar.
I almost said it again.
Can I just do a side note? I've read a little bit about hobos. They do actually have a lot of gay sex.
Of course, dude.
Why wouldn't you?
It's so romantic riding the rails with a couple of stinky guys eating
Right?
soup out of a boot.
Right? What could make this more like organic
All your possessions
and
in a
rustic than
napkin?
fucking
Who
some guy?
else will suck your dirty dick but a guy whose dick is just as dirty?
Thank you.
Dude, you said that without twisting your tongue. What's your fucking problem, man?
Say that again and then throw railroad at the
Say
end
that
of
one
it.
more time. Who else is sucking your dick to the guy who's sucking your dick and damn dirty? That was really
Railroad.
wobbly wobbly woo.
They decided that if he wasn't back by Monday evening, they would call the whole thing off.
Wait, where were they at? Where were they hanging
The
at?
Leaky Shack?
That's right.
They were packing their things when he finally showed
See,
up.
now they're packing their things at the
Yeah.
leaky shack.
With all of the signs and bad omens, someone had to think this wasn't going to end well. That someone turned out to be Roy, who took out 2 life insurance policies on himself.
Can you even do that?
One for his girlfriend Dorothy,
Oh, okay.
and one for his older brother, whom he sent the paperwork by registered mail.
Okay.
On October 11th, 1923, the number 13 train left Portland, stopping in the small town of Ashland at noon to bring on a fresh crew for the trip to California.
I already know where this goes.
The conductor slowed the 10 cars to a crawl as they neared Tunnel 13. Hugh and Roy jumped onto the train, and again Roy nearly missed, dropping his .45 caliber pistol in the process.
Oh, this is costing me more to
Yeah,
do this.
he's
I'm
such
losing
a-
money on this robbery.
They just need to clip him out of this plan.
Yeah. Or at least like
He's the
in be-
weakest link.
He's the guy who had to
clearly.
quit barbering because he couldn't see.
I know, but they can at least like get his cardio up to speed to be in between like robberies.
Needed
Like
a training
Like,
montage.
he's not even working on it.
Yeah, like the American Ninja thing, whatever that is.
They made their way to the front and ordered the engineer to stop. The engineers agreed, but told them they needed to put on the warning bell as it was company policy. Ray, carrying the dynamite, nervously chain-smoked inside the tunnel. The bell made his agitation even worse. Yes, sir.
Stop.
Question in the back.
This guy, the guy with all the dynamite, is chain smoking?
Yeah, I thought maybe someone would pick that one up, and I'm glad that you did.
Jim, oh, please tell me this goes where I hope it goes.
Well, he's not putting the cigarettes out
Wait,
on
is
the
this
dynamite.
But if I have
Is this
dynamite,
Roy?
if I
No.
have dynamite all around me and I'm the guy that's smoking like this.
Yeah, well, you know.
Roy is on the train with a banged-up knee
Okay.
and no gun.
Okay.
Yes.
With Hugh in the engineer's cart. Ray is hiding in the tunnel with all the dynamite and his cigarettes.
Cigarettes, yeah.
Just hoping nothing bad happens.
Yeah.
So that's going to work out well. By the way, I just want to point out that the tunnel is made of like wooden beams, is what holds the tunnel.
It's like a collapsible tunnel like
yeah,
the old
just
days.
one of the
the old mines.
Classic tunnel.
classic
Bless
tunnel,
you.
like
Classic
old school.
tunnel. Thank you.
Classic Tunnel 13.
The kind of tunnel you would go to now to have like a Moscow Mule and like folk music.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of thing.
I love that.
I know you do.
So they have a good steak and a nice whiskey.
As the train
the
came to
tunnel?
a halt, Ray placed the dynamite on the door of the mail car.
As you do.
Wondering why it had stopped early, Elvin Dirty, one of the mail workers, poked his head outside, where he narrowly missed having his head blown off by a blast from Ray's shotgun.
Jesus.
Doherty ducked back inside, bolted the windows closed, and locked the safe. So he put himself into a pretty good position, right? While Hugh kept his gun on the conductor, Roy took over for Ray with the dynamite.
Wait, are they all in the same room right now, or are we talking about? We're talking about the
Hugh is in the
Wait, where did Hugh come from?
Yeah, you got to tell us.
Hugh
when
and
you're going.
Roy were the two who jumped onto the train initially to stop the engine, to get the engineer to stop the train.
Yep.
Got
as-
it.
Ray was hiding in the tunnel. Now Hugh has his gun on the conductor, saying like, "Keep this train kicking it right here." Roy is going back to take over for shaky, smoky Ray to blow up the dynamite,
Okay.
and Ray's going to go back and help Hugh.
Who's the guy that you said just bolted things closed?
That's Elvin Doherty, one of the mail workers.
This is a different room. This is at the back of the train. This is
This is
where
one of
mail's
the
at?
train cars. This is the mail
Okay,
car. He's
all
in the
right.
mail.
He
Just-
does
all-
not have a gun on him.
No.
I don't know if he has a gun on him, but his partner does.
Okay.
Some of the train people all have guns on them.
One of them does. One of the mail worker
Oh,
guys.
must have been fun. Maybe you get a job working for a train one day. You get to carry a gun.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
The plan was to detonate the charge inside the tunnel, hoping the mountain would help muffle the sound.
This seems like this is going to that Sylvester Stallone movie where they're underneath that bridge tunnel thing.
This was a very bad choice.
Oh, fair.
When Roy triggered the detonator, the blast blew out every window on the train and filled the entire tunnel with smoke.
Okay, that's not good for people's lungs. I'm losing empathy for these criminals now. They're fucking giving people fucking mesothelioma. Go
The
on.
mail car quickly went up entirely in flames.
And the guy bolted inside. Did he die?
Oh yeah, certainly burned to death. Also, all the mail and the grandma money.
I thought we weren't going to do stories where people died, man.
Everything that they wanted,
Oh yeah, everything that they
it
wanted.
burns.
Yeah, the money,
Elvin
the mail,
Doherty.
the guy they wanted to bring back to the leaky shack.
Yeah.
All of that is burned
I
down
wanted
now.
to fuck Elvin Diva Doherty. He seemed like a cool. He seemed hygienic.
He seemed wobbly.
I'll tell you something. He would definitely wobble on my account.
The brake operator came to investigate, and Roy told him to head to the engine car and tell them to pull the train forward out of the tunnel.
This is while a guy's burning in the back, crisping. Ugh.
On his arrival,
Do people still rob trains right now? Does this happen in 2017 or whatever year we're in?
actually the book this is from is called The Last Great American Train Robbery.
No, so I asked the right questions.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't rob trains anymore. After this, you never rob a train again.
On the operator's arrival to the front car, he startled Ray and Hugh, who both fired their guns.
Whoa! Ah!
Man, I probably shouldn't have been squeezing the trigger,
fuck,
kinda.
Yeah.
You get startled, and next thing you know, boom, murder.
every time I hold a gun, and people surprise me, I fire.
Oh, it's the worst.
I know the feeling. It's at the range. I just go to ranges.
Right,
As he dropped to the ground, he sputtered, quote, "That other fella said to pull the thing ahead." Hugh shot him again.
Oh,
The conductor tried to pull the train forward, but was unable because it was so heavily damaged. At this point,
is he laying there bleeding?
no, the conductor hasn't been shot yet. This was the brake operator who had been sent to the front of the train to tell them to pull the car forward.
He's shot.
He's been shot.
And
Yeah.
is he sitting there bleeding? Is he like?
Oh, he's
"Ah!"
dead now.
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, because he got shot a couple times and fell, and then Hugh shot him again when he was on the ground. After he was like, "Pull the train up so we don't all burn to death." He was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." Bang. So, yeah, that's what's happening right now. And then the conductor tried to pull the train forward, but since it had been exploded, it didn't like.
So we have
work.
2 deaths.
And then
we got
he
2
was
deaths
like,
on our
pull the
hands.
train forward. That was my idea. There's no one here to dispute that.
Smart brother. This exact same thing so far happened to me once before, just so you know.
At this point,
The
Roy.
whole thing, the whole story. He's like, I was 4 brothers.
Yeah,
That's
I was
I gotta come clean. I'm
I
not
was a
just one
twin, and
guy.
then exactly, yeah.
He gives me glasses. Put these on. I put them on. You're like 4 people. I'm like, holy fuck! Tebow's 4 people. Go on.
And they're all each dumber than the other.
At this point, Roy panicked and suddenly shot the conductor's assistant.
He doesn't pay.
They're a
It
bunch
doesn't
of
pay.
jumpy ass
Yeah.
criminals.
They're
it's
really
their first time. They're criminal open micers. They're
first
brand
time
new.
There's
Just
3
killing
people
people
that are
left
dead
and
now. They
right.
got blood on their hands. Their very first time.
I'm so nervous. Ray, keeping a calmer head, told Hugh to shoot the conductor so there would be no witnesses.
Oh,
of course.
The boys ran out of the tunnel. Disoriented, they ran a few miles in the wrong direction before realizing their mistake and doubling back to their hideout. If that weren't bad enough, their plan to muffle the blast of the tunnel failed completely. Within minutes of hearing the massive explosion, workers from a nearby railway stop rushed to the scene with fire extinguishers, expecting to find a boiler accident. Instead, they found a crime scene. They sent one of the uninjured passengers to the nearest operator station to get a telegraph to the police.
God, nothing.
47 days later, the police show up.
Nothing gets taken care of like that. Yeah, like, well, why? What do you want me to do? I'm just fuck that.
Within hours, they issued an all-points bulletin with descriptions of the suspects.
They called it that even in those days, huh?
Yes, they did.
APB. Put it on an APB, fellers.
There was some evidence at the scene: a detonator, the .45 caliber, a pair of overalls.
Always. If there's a
3
train, there are overalls. If there's one thing I've learned about trains,
Overalls, yeah.
Yep.
3 knapsacks, a can of black pepper, and some foot pads soaked in creosote, which is sort of like a hardening agent.
And
I looked that up because I knew you'd want to know what creosote
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
creosote. I knew these guys were on juice.
Posses formed on both sides. Of the,
Just pumping it. That's how they hit those homers in the big leagues. You get these pros on creosote.
How you think he carried all that dynamite, man? He's playing dirty.
posses formed on both sides of the
This
Oregon-California
is like an
border.
episode of things that only we think are funny.
Yeah. Which is exactly the story of my life. Ow.
Story of Tebow's life. Huh?
The
Social
posses-
distortion? They probably would love this story. Huh? Guys with greased hair.
The posses found nothing. So 2 days later, the local sheriff turned the investigation over to Southern Pacific Railroad's chief special agent, Dan O'Connell, who coincidentally happened to be the same man who had captured the brothers' criminal inspiration, Roy Gardner.
Oh, yeah. So he's already into this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, okay.
O'Connell immediately gathered the evidence and sent it to Professor Edward Heinrich at UC Berkeley.
Oh, German? He's going to get him.
The chemistry professor, known as the Edison of crime detection and the Wizard of Berkeley,
KKK reference. There we go again.
examined the items and
Yeah, I
came
think that's
back.
the Grand Wizard of Berkeley.
That's a good
a whole
point.
different
You know, you ever
thing.
look at Berkeley? They could use the KKK guy there, you know? Show him some real racism, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, Berkeley, how about you see what it's really like down here in Arkansas, huh?
Oh no, I just make potions. You're looking for the Grand Wizard.
That's right.
If you're talking to like get a girl to fall in love with you,
Yeah.
or like become rich,
Yeah.
or change a person into a toad, I'm your guy.
I'll take the toad part.
Yeah. But if you're
Can
trying
you
to
set this cross on fire or not? I got a barbecue waiting.
no, that's room 307. Just tell him.
This is
Just,
a really good
just go
idea
there.
for an Adult Swim cartoon. There's a KKK guy and a real wizard, and they work at the same office. You're really onto something. Or maybe I am for calling it and catching it.
And
Don't
you-
steal my ideas! I'm just joking. The 4 of us, are pushing this program. Go on.
The wizard examined the items and came back with an amazing amount of information. He said that at least one of the suspects was a white male,
Fucking white people.
23 to 25 years old, around 5'9" and 165 pounds,
Got that from the fucking overalls.
with fastidious grooming habits.
Right? What's that mean?
Like was really into his grooming, like
Okay.
kind of overly so.
Yeah.
Who worked as a left-handed lumberjack in the Pacific Northwest.
See, I told you this was about me.
Wow.
They get you to see how thick Tebow's left arm is and how wobbly his right arm is.
They'd be like, you can't wear all that stuff. It's
That's
gonna get
from
caught in
other
the fucking
reasons.
tractor.
That's from chopping a different kind of wood. You know what I'm saying? Come on.
trust me.
Yeah. Everybody, chaw for chaw, guys.
Chop 4 woods today.
We're going chaw for chaw.
I'll chaw that wood. How did he figure all that out? Stray hairs in the pockets showed that the man was white. The height and weight of an estimation from the size of the overalls and the foot pads.
Good work there, Tebow.
The
Thank you.
fastidiousness came from his discovery of nail filings in
I
the
was
pocket.
just going to say nail clippings. Holy fuck.
Were you going to say it at that octave?
Well, I think you're wrong because it was nail clippings, not nail clippings.
I know.
So, yeah.
You want to see some real crime?
Yeah, I do.
I can rip your fucking beard hairs out and feed them to you, you fucking asshole.
A grease mark on the leg turned out to be pitch from a fir tree, the kind found in the Pacific Northwest. And
Jesus
the right side of the
Christ.
overalls showed signs of rubbing against a tree trunk,
It's like the first forensic
Right?
detective. Yeah.
which is exactly what would happen if they were worn by a left-handed man repeatedly swinging an axe.
Oh, man. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Fuck, right?
But all that was kind of unnecessary because the most damning piece of evidence was a receipt for a piece of registered mail sent from Eugene, Oregon to someone in Lakewood, New Mexico. It was the life insurance policy.
That's how they get you. Paperwork. They always get you.
Yeah,
the paperwork.
don't leave behind your paperwork
Yeah.
at crime scenes. That's
Right.
like number one rule.
all of that crime, all of that evidence didn't matter because he left his driver's
Yeah,
license.
that's what I
that he
mean, that's
just
where I
got the
was
day
going.
before.
If you want life insurance that will not get you arrested, contact Joe Earl at C3 Risk and Insurance Services.
That is going to cost them extra. That's a plug.
Soon after connecting the letter to Roy, investigators learned that he had two brothers in the area who all stayed with their dad. O'Connell paid Paul DeAutremont a visit, where they learned that Roy was, in fact, left-handed and, as a barber, had the habit of continually filing his fingernails. From there, they matched a hair from the pants to a hair on one of Roy's sweaters.
I can't believe they even had to go any farther than that. Like, we got him.
Then they traced the gun, which, unbeknownst to the boys, had a second set of serial numbers on the inside. They matched the signature of the fake purchaser to handwriting samples belonging to Ray. The car was impounded, processed for evidence, then sold to the police department.
Did you say sold?
Yeah, the police department bought it for $600, and they used it as the sheriff's like off-time car and also to check up on parolees.
After the crime?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I mean, like they actually did it pretty quickly. Like they processed, they're like, well, no more evidence here. Fuck it, let's use this car now.
Why would they even have to buy it?
I don't actually know about that. That's a good.
It seems like they
I
just
would just
take
be like, we're
everything.
keeping it as an evidence.
I think they said they bought it.
You put your vanity plates on it, like, it's evidence. I'd rather be fishing. No, it's evidence. Fuck yeah. A lot of horsepower. I would love to do that. Man, I should join that car.
Man, this car has 2 whole horsepower.
Yeah,
It's oof.
yeah. My other car's a Buick.
The boys were indicted. I see what you did there, because that happened before. Wobbly you. The boys were indicted for 6 counts, including train robbery, stealing U.S. mail, and first-degree murder. But there was no problem. No one knew where they were. As it turns out, the boys did have
Check the
one-
leaky shack.
Yeah,
That's right. Sweating.
Open
shoving.
till 4.
Listen to
They
the
found
Turbo
the
Lover
brothers,
from
and they were
Judas
all
Priest.
dead from dehydration. There was plenty of water. They had just come too much.
Did you see my face? I was like, what?
So was I. I did the same thing. I'm like, these guys are so
End
stupid.
of the story. Yeah. Dehydrated with chafed dicks and assholes, the boys lay in a gutter covered
As
in
it
crusty
turns
white
out,
stuff.
the boys did
Sorry,
have
Mom.
one criminal skill: the ability to disappear.
Oh, yeah.
For days, they hid in the
important one.
cabin until they ran out of food.
I mean, of course. I mean, these are people that are totally cool with sleeping on trains and in ditches.
Yep.
If you can sleep, if you're willing to sleep in a ditch, you are going to be a hard motherfucker to find.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Yeah, because you're willing. I'll just be in a tree for 2 days.
Ooh.
You're not going to think I'm
Add
looking
that
for
to
a
our
man
list of
in a
rules.
tree.
Sleep in ditches.
Huh?
Add that to the list of the rules. Sleep in ditches.
Oh, sleep in ditches.
What does this mean? Rules.
Oh,
We
we
have-
have a surprise coming
yeah,
that we're not ready to announce on the show yet, but
Okay, good.
yeah, there are some rules.
Okay, cool.
Where the shit was I? For days, the boys hid in a cabin until they ran out of food. Finally, Ray left to pick up the car, but found his face, along with his brothers, plastered on thousands of wanted posters.
Oh, yeah. About to get some of that criminal pussy. Famous.
Have you seen my headshot?
How many days did this take
A few days, not long.
for the detective to figure this all out?
Oh yeah, the detective took this. It really was very, very quick.
In
to
like
kinda
in
start
an
this thing
hour,
down.
the detective was like,
Like within 9 days of the robbery, they had wanted posters out saying who it was.
Wow.
They figured out the nail clippings. They followed their leads, whittled down that, or they wobbled down that list or whatever, and they fucking came.
They
up
found a
with them.
shack
That was
covered in
back in the
DNA.
day
You know,
when
just
people
everything
just
was there.
knew shit like types of trees and where they come from.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now you like. pick
Yeah,
up your
no
phone,
one
you're
knows
all,
what trees are now.
Siri, solve this crime for me, and then get back to me when you're done. And then you just go to Instagram and like a bunch of pictures. That's what being a detective is like nowadays. I know for a fact.
So Ray, seeing his face and his brothers plastered on thousands of wanted posters, did the only thing that made sense and took a 5-day job picking fruit at a local farm.
Totally.
The owner happened to be part of the posse looking for him. Luckily for Ray, the farmer didn't recognize him. In fact, as a side note, every time the farmer went to go look with the posse, Ray was like, "Hey, good luck catching them, guys."
Really?
That's so funny, dude.
That had to be fun.
I totally, dude.
The first time in his life he feels smart.
He takes his hat off. He's like, and I do hope you catch those darn bad criminals. You want some more strawberries? I just picked 5 more pounds, sir.
And if you do catch him, hey, go light on him, would you?
Go easy on him.
After earning enough money for some food,
Probably got a big old dick. You know what I mean? I'm just bragging about him. Genius criminals, though, sir. Genius. I'm very impressed by what they do.
Handsome man. Very easy on the eyes, this gentleman.
"Hey, young farmhand whose name I can't remember, I had a tough day. We couldn't find those guys. Would you come and look me close in the eyes and just tell me it's all going to be okay?"
Sure, it's all gonna be okay.
You don't look familiar at all.
I
Look
know.
at this poster for a second. Do you recognize these guys?
No, but I will keep my eye out for him. He's a handsome devil, that boy.
Oh, thanks, man.
And what did they do? What they in trouble for?
Murdered some people, robbed a train. Not a big deal. Did you get some strawberries for me, though?
Yes.
All right, cool. Roy and...
Like a fucking,
And that folks,
like a witch.
And an improv game.
hello, like that.
After earning enough money for some food, Ray headed back to the cabin. Roy and Hugh were relieved to see him until they learned about the $14,400 bounty on their heads.
Which is
Which is like $1 billion.
$206,000 today.
Okay.
As the posse grew closer and the search planes flew overhead, the boys snuck through the woods of California, or for California. Eventually, they decided they would have a better chance if they split up. Before leaving, they made a pact to meet in 5 years on New Year's Day at the largest YMCA in New York.
Of course
You know where we should meet? At the YMCA.
This is why these motherfuckers are hard to find, though, because they do have unique meeting places.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like in the old days, was that like a cool?
Well,
I mean, I'm sure there's more
I
cool.
love that it's 5 years.
Well, now that the Leaky Shack is closed, we got to go somewhere else where our people
Gotta be
can meet.
somewhere where the boys all shower.
Imagine if somebody was like, we were writing, right? And we're like, okay, cool. Let's meet again in 5 years at this one place in Des Moines, Iowa. And you're like, okay, cool. See you then. Like, who would ever, like,
a random
you're like,
place.
It's a very long time
all
away.
right, 5. That's
You better keep a calendar. You're like, has it been 4 years or 5?
Let's
Fuck, when was
meet
that?
at the Walmart in La Puente in 2024.
And like the more popular you were back then, the more people that are telling you to meet you somewhere in 5 or 6 years. You know what
They're
I mean?
all on the lam, so they show up to the YMCA in 5 years in disguises. Like one of them is a construction worker, one's an Indian.
One's a cop.
I got an idea.
Like
We'll
the
all
Freddie
show up in
Mercury guy.
disguise, and that's where that song came from, I'm pretty sure.
Hugh started riding the rails, drifting from California to Texas to Mexico, then all across
So
the
good.
American South. This is Hugh riding the rails, by the way, now.
Of course, dude. When it's in your family blood,
Sure.
dude, you ride the rails.
Which one was Hugh? He's the young
He was
kid
the
that was
youngest.
doing
Yeah.
good.
The young
He
smart.
was the smart one.
who had his life ruined. Okay.
By now, he looked like a hobo, which was great because his wanted posters were still everywhere. But in April of 1924 in Chicago, he saw a new poster recruiting for the Army. So he marched into a recruiter's office and told them he was James C. Price from Texas.
All right.
Soon after, he found himself stationed with the 31st Infantry in the Philippines. Roy
With
took...
the big secret, hey, I'm a murderer criminal.
No, he's James Price from Texas. James C. Price, in fact, from Texas. He's fine. No secret.
Okay.
He didn't murder anybody or try to rob a train
He
or
never rode the
jerk
rails.
off his brothers in a weird shack. None of that happened.
You're good.
Roy
Almost too good.
took work.
Just saying.
Roy took a job at a farm in Northern California, but left when the farmer asked too many questions. He made it to Sacramento.
What's your favorite food?
Ah, shit.
What's your favorite color?
Ooh, God, I should have prepared a backstory for this. I didn't even think about color.
Green berries?
You want to go to the movies?
No.
Ooh, he wants to spend that much. He wants to spend his entire life savings on a picture show for me. This is getting too intense. I didn't even take him to the shack yet.
Fear of commitment.
Roy made it to Sacramento, where he grew paranoid after seeing his wanted posters everywhere. He wrote a letter to Ray's alias, William B. Elliott, and the twins met up in Vacaville 6 months after splitting ways.
These guys are good at coming up with names.
Yeah. Well,
For as
interesting.
dumb as they are in my head, they come up with some pretty like names. I'd be like, oh yeah, that guy looks like a fucking Mark Price.
Well, here's an interesting side note: is that the feds.
James C. Price.
James C. Price. Well, by the way,
Jamesy for short.
before Jamesy, he went by Jesse James for a long time
Ah, that's a good one.
because he was like 17. He was like, "That's a cool name," and that guy did crimes.
That's funny. You're like a criminal. You're
Yeah.
like, I'm Bruce.
I'm Louis
Bruce
C.K.
Springsteen.
Hey, this is Sarah and her friend Louis C.K.
Well, here's a fun note about William B. Elliott.
Folks.
Is that the feds actually hadn't discovered that was his alias, and they informed the post office like, "Hey, this is the alias we're looking for," but they never they weren't checking the letters. So if they had just
Even
checked
from
the
the
letters,
feds?
yeah, if they just checked the letters,
The one
they would have
envelope
got
I
it.
open is right. You know, you get a fucking one from your insurance company.
Well, no, the
or
post
you get one
office
from the
knew,
feds.
like, they informed them, hey, like, here's what his name is, and here's the alias. And the post office was like, cool. Hey, who's this going to? William B. Elliott? Sure, send it along.
Oh yeah. Just doing my job. Get out of the way. Almost time for lunch.
They met up in Vacaville 6 months after splitting ways and decided they had a better chance of making it if they headed east. Ray and Roy moved to Detroit, but it didn't quell Roy's paranoia. He insisted he saw detectives everywhere. He was such a wreck that he was fired from his job as a hotel dishwasher. So they packed up and moved to Ohio under the names Elmer and Clarence Goodwin. I know, great choice.
All right, then.
Well, also,
That's just because I'm running out of fucking names. You know what I mean? You can't be Dave
I
every
don't
time.
know, Elmer?
Yeah. Clarence.
Do I look like Elmer?
Elmer's great.
All right. Well, paper, scissors, rock. To Clarence.
shit.
I guess I'm Elmer.
Well, here's my favorite part of this is like these are two of the most wanted men in America, and they're Remember, they're twins. They
I
look
did
the same.
forget that actually. Yeah. Okay.
They're twins, and so they're like, you know what's the best thing we can do is stick together and keep being
You
double
idiot.
identified.
What they should have done is one of them shouldn't have committed the crime, and then they could always be like, no, I'm not him. I'm the innocent one.
Why
no
don't they
matter
just
who
say
gets
there's
caught.
a triplet?
Ooh, they could have just added one in. They just blame
would make a
Vern. No, you're
great
looking for
criminal.
Vern.
That's great crime right there.
You're looking for Vern. He's a dick. He's always, doing stuff that's bad. Ray as Elmer
We're
became.
quintuplets. You're looking for Kadarvi. He's the bad one.
Good dark.
This is the third time I'm saying it. What a dumb fuck.
I love reaching new lows with Tebow. Him just being like, just upsetting him. Like, that's the worst joke I ever heard. Yeah! I'm the best at the worst jokes Tebow's ever heard. Kadarvi would be a fucking
Bastard. Okay, that was great.
Ray as Elmer became friends with a local farmer and evenally fell for
These guys
his...
hang out a lot in the farm scene.
because it's
it's a
rural.
drifter.
You're
Yeah, of
away from the
course.
city.
and it's a drifter job. Like,
Boom.
farming is like.
Oh.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
could
I
use
mean?
some help.
Befriended the local farmer and eventually fell for his 16-year-old daughter. And in August of 1925...
This is where the farmer's daughter joke came from.
There you go.
How old is he?
25.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's all right back
in
then.
1923,
Yeah,
it's
it was
less
Is there going to
creepy.
be a hashtag on this episode?
Yeah, right?
Ew! Yeah, this is the old days when women
In August of
matured
1925, they were married. Ray Elmer took a job at a mill, while Roy Clarence headed to West Virginia to work in the coal mines. But he moved back in a few months, unable to make it away from his twin. In June of 1926, Ray's wife gave birth to a son. They fell into a simple routine. Ray and Roy worked quiet farm jobs, while Mom and the baby stayed home. Everything had finally settled down.
Until.
But despite the failed search, the feds were still on the case. They spent over $500,000 on the manhunt,
Oh my-
$7.1 million today.
Oh my
Wow.
God! They're like, I'm gonna get my guy. I don't
Oh,
care
yeah.
what it takes. Yeah, I mean, they had a botched robbery where people died. I mean, like, what do you expect?
I mean,
You
he
can't just
killed
sleep
federal
that- you can't
employees,
sleep
stole
that off.
mail.
How much later is this now from the crime?
10 years.
Well, the crime was 1923. This is 1926 right now.
Okay.
Oh,
So
it's
it's only 3 years later. A lot happened in
A
those
lot of
3
money.
years.
That's like a war.
Oh, yeah.
That is, so yeah. But in those 3 years, a lot has happened, and these people have been like really on the run.
Well, they're good at this. They found what they're good at. It was being on the run is the one thing they're good at.
Are they?
Well, we'll find out. That's for sure.
Is it?
Of the
Is it?
of the $500,000, 9,911 of those dollars, about 150,000 today, went to posting 2,583,000 wanted posters around the world in 6 different languages.
How many fucking trees?
And
You know
how
what I mean?
far are they from the crime scene at this point?
They're in Ohio.
I wonder
That
if you
was
can
Oregon.
find those online.
Probably, I bet you probably can. Oh, yeah, it was 2.5 million of them. If I'm gonna buy one. if I can
Smithsonian
find one.
Archive.
It'd be cool to frame one of those.
Oh shit, yeah. Eventually,
Wanted.
their efforts.
Kadarvi.
Oh, let's see.
And his twin brother, Rick.
Shadarnar. Yeah, Rick. Okay, got it.
In 1926, a member of the 31st Infantry was briefly stationed. This whole thing fell apart right
I
there.
wish I could slap
with the
you
voice,
or
do it with
shock
the
your
voice.
nipples every time
That's
you
a good
messed up
point.
on a word.
In 1926, a member of the 31st Infantry was briefly stationed at Alcatraz. God, it works so well.
There you go.
Briefly stationed at Alcatraz, which was then a military prison. Bored, the soldier began to study the wanted posters on the wall. Eventually realizing...
All 3 million of them. They just put them only up in a prison.
Yes, yeah.
Anybody here seen these guys?
I mean, we will when you catch them.
Are they here yet?
No, yeah.
Eventually he realized that one of them looked a lot like his friend Private James Price.
James C. Price?
James C. Price.
The price is right, boys.
The post office sent an investigator to Manila, where they found Hugh, who denied being Hugh, until the onslaught of questions became so great that he sighed and said, I guess you got your man.
Oh, wow.
So all you got to do to this guy is ask him enough questions. Every time he gets asked questions,
Yeah.
he does not do well.
He
Any
can't.
of them. None of them do well
What
with
day
their
is
questions.
it? I'm Hugh.
Yeah. Fuck, I murdered a guy.
Yeah.
But Hugh denied.
Where were you yesterday? I murdered somebody 3 years ago. I blew a train up. Oh,
man,
God. It never felt so good to get that out.
Hey, excuse me, sir. Sir, what time is it? Do you have the time?
I killed somebody. I was smoking and I had a bunch of dynamite around me, and I was very nervous. My brother's very bad at jumping on trains.
So is that like before or
It's
after?
a little after 2:30 though.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
He got stressed out like on a question you could like, what was your favorite color then? Blue? No, my favorite color would be orange.
Hugh admitted who he was, but denied killing or robbing anyone, saying that 4 men had robbed him and his brothers while they were on a hunting trip.
Oh, clever.
Of their overalls, their dynamite.
Their overalls, their dynamite,
I left them
their
hanging up when I was
backpacks.
at the bar and came out from taking care of my business.
I was in a wobbly H situation over at the Rusty Mullet, and
I was the horizontal line, so I didn't.
that's a real bar.
That's a real bar.
It was Brother Roy's turn to be the H.
Brother
and,
Roy.
They were on a hunting trip and they were robbed, and that they ran because they thought no one would believe their story. Hugh was shipped back to Oregon to be tried for the murder and robbery.
Okay, so the cops didn't believe his story either. Okay.
He grew nervous when he saw a crowd of 500 people waiting for him on the platform. But they just wanted the chance to take pictures with him in his sharp suit and nice hat. And he obliged. He's a good meet and greet. Shake some hands, kiss some babies, you know?
That's nice.
Get out there, sell
Shake some babies, kiss some hands.
There you go. Back in Ohio, Paranoid Roy saw a new wanted poster.
That sounds like a very timid rapper name.
Paranoid Roy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he smokes a lot of weed.
Yeah, I'm not sure that
Exactly.
I think I might just be like the rest.
A lot of people outside my apartment.
Yeah, everybody's looking at me. I don't think they like what they see. I'm Paranoid Roy. I'm smoking that weed.
Roy saw a new wanted poster, but this one only had 2 pictures on it.
And it wasn't him? Yeah, peace.
Obviously, something had happened to Hugh.
Oh,
The brothers knew they had to flee the country. They didn't have enough money. They began saving as fast as they could, but it was already too late. On June 8th, 1927, the feds acted on a tip from a partially blind co-worker who identified...
That's always a good source of info.
Right?
Yeah.
What did he look like? Well, shit. He
Kind of
was,
blurry, I think.
Like he looked like that.
You describe it. His face is kind of like this. No, not like that. Like this.
All right, here's what
Kind of moves. Had a lot of movement.
here's what he looked like. Hold up your thumb, like that. That's what he looked like.
Looked like a blob.
They're like, can you draw him? He draws just a smiley face.
Yeah.
I know he had eyes.
2 of them, in fact.
Not everyone has that.
Watch
from what I've
out,
gathered.
sir. He definitely had a mouth.
The feds arrested Roy at work, then went to get Ray at home. They knocked on the door and told him that Clarence had been in an accident and that they would take Elmer to the hospital. Ray had no idea he was being arrested until he got into the car and found himself surrounded by uniformed men with guns drawn.
And this is the guy with the kid.
Yes.
So now we got a broken home situation.
We do.
Fuck, that kid's gonna be.
And they
Yeah,
and they
that's
had
the next story.
They are used to it,
no
though.
idea.
This family
That's true.
was it broke. I mean, they left each other 50 times until the kids got old enough and they started being like, "Peace out, I'm out of here, motherfucker."
So here's the interesting part. Apparently, like at this point, Ray is like father of the year with this family, with his wife and his new
He
kid.
started from scratch and he's doing it right.
Like, he's
this
like,
time.
I'm
turning over a new leaf.
Yeah,
This
but
is the
she
sad
just
part.
didn't
This is
know.
Carlito's way when he gets drawn back into it and killed.
After a few days, the twins were taken to the train station for a ride to Oregon. The cops had to push their way through thousands of people trying to get a look at the notorious DeAutremont brothers. People yelled out well wishes. When someone shouted, "Have a nice trip," Roy yelled back, "We wouldn't miss it for anything. Oregon's beautiful this time of year."
Like he didn't know.
There's such squares.
Well, they're also like kind of like, yeah, because remember they idolize these like these sort of old timey criminals.
Yeah.
Because this is 1920s, so like Capone, all these like, Chicago mobsters are big time right now.
But don't they have any guilt of like murder? These are
But
like,
it's also the Great Depression as well.
Yeah.
So like jobs are scarce as fuck. Everybody's broke and doing desperate, crazy
Yeah,
things.
train robbing
They
is
kind of
just-
became celebrities out of everybody being super poor.
It's the Postmates of 1923.
They were the ones that had the balls to like, man, let's rob the fucking government. They took all of our jobs. Let's rob the mail truck.
Fair enough. When Roy heard the government spent over $500,000 trying to track them down,
he got hard.
he told the gathered reporters, quote, "They should have offered us $250,000 to give up, and we could have saved everyone a bundle of money."
What a charming young fellow, played by
Say.
Matt Damon.
Hughes' trial, as we've come to expect, was a total circus. The town of Jacksonville, Oregon, where it took place, experienced a brief economic boom on account of all the people coming to watch and cover the proceedings.
It's like the Olympics come into your city.
Yeah.
Even the jury selection made
Or an
news.
OJ's trial.
Yep.
Yeah, they should have done that in like somewhere that needed it, like
Yeah.
Fresno.
Detroit. They should have had OJ's trial in Detroit.
From now on, all trials are in Detroit.
Yeah.
It seems like such overkill for one crime. Like, I know that it was a big deal and they killed people and all that, but like, it's not like they were robbing trains for years and they were like America's Most Wanted. But suddenly,
a lot of these things get into like the passion of like the people that work there, though. So like, if you have a sergeant or what do you call it, a detective head of the FBI, like it becomes his legacy of like, I'm gonna bring that guy. It's more like an object.
And how does a
Yeah.
story hit the national attention, right?
It's
like
an object of desire. It becomes all this. You know what I mean? So you're right.
certain stories
You're
are just cool stories, and everyone's like, "Shit, I got to know more about that."
Plus, it's like the longer those guys were like, nobody could find them, the more they kind of became iconic.
right. Yeah.
Plus,
know.
it's 1923.
They like went viral. Like that was getting put on posters and put up
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
It was going viral.
But you
Oh yeah,
make- you make a good point,
2.5
though.
million posters.
Yeah.
Fucking weird.
Yeah, I mean they're the biggest celebrities in the country at this point.
There
Yeah.
could be another criminal that does way worse than them that
Yeah.
they're like that people just don't know about that isn't getting caught, and they're just like, well, but we're gonna catch these guys.
And they got them.
They got him, ladies and gentlemen. We got him, right? That's what they said. I heard
Even the jury selection made news, as the prosecution rejected anyone unwilling to impose the death penalty, even if their only objection
That
was if
seems
the
fair.
evidence was circumstantial.
That seems fair.
But that didn't really matter. Not only was the evidence very strong, but the witness testimony was damning enough on its own. Justice was briefly derailed during Hughes' trial when one of the jurors died. It was declared a mistrial and rescheduled, but it didn't matter. The jury didn't buy the "we were framed" defense. They deliberated only 30 minutes before declaring Hugh guilty on all charges. By this time, Ray and Roy arrived in town, and the brothers were placed in adjoining cells. After a brief discussion, they decided that the twins would agree to plead guilty in exchange for all three boys receiving life instead of the noose.
Okay.
They were all three sentenced to life at the Oregon State Prison in Salem. Every time the Southern Pacific train passed the prison, the conductors rang the warning bell. Hugh bounced from one prison job to the next, eventually taking over as editor for the prison newspaper. He was paroled in 1958 and moved to San Francisco. Less than a year later, he died of stomach cancer.
after he just got out.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck.
Roy,
Yeah, that's really
one note about that conductor bell,
Yeah.
or that warning bell is like all the brothers when they wrote about it, talked about it later, they were like, honestly, that bell was the worst part about prison. Like
How often was it?
the train came by all the time. And so Southern Pacific guys were like, as a fuck you to the brothers, were like, hey, remember us? Warning bell, warning bell, warning bell.
Who were the witnesses, by the way?
I was wondering
There
that
were-
too.
There were a bunch of passengers. So the train, there was 10 cars on the train. The back of the train had a few passengers in it. Plus, you had the brake operator who died, but then there was another. So he's not a witness anymore, I guess.
Horribly died.
There was another guy in the mail car who didn't get burned alive.
Oh.
So the mail car was divided into two halves. Like one was the money half, one was the mail half or whatever. And the guy in the mail half is one who got
The
burned
other half
alive.
was just all those newspapers from Ralph's.
Yeah.
The penny saver.
So yeah, so one of the mail car guys didn't die. No one from none of the passengers died, and some other people who worked on the train. But so there were 4 deaths overall.
Wow, that was a lot of witnesses.
Oh yeah. Oh no, they paraded a collection of witnesses.
Once they had him, they're not going to let him get out. They're
Yeah.
like, we got him. Let's fucking seal this shit.
and some of the witnesses were
Let's
like,
close
I
this."
watched him shoot a guy who was lying on the ground in the back, and like it was all pretty hefty.
Pretty gnarly.
The trial itself was super contentious. Like the judge, the 2 attorneys were like arguing with each other, not like court style arguing, but like calling each other names and being super dicks to each other.
Yeah.
and it was bananas. The first trial went on so long that the jury like got bored. Like one guy was just like eating peanuts the entire time. Another guy, he chewed on everything. Like a reporter noted that he chewed through like his entire leather bracelet and then chewed through like another notebook. He was just chewing stuff.
Sure, it wasn't like a Saint Bernard or something. The gentleman with the beard, juror with the beard. Do you have any questions? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The trial was so popular, the judge actually had to warn high school students that he would bring a truant officer in if they didn't go back to school because they were all cutting class to come watch the trial.
yeah.
One of those kind of things. Let's see. It's the warning bell.
America's badass.
Hugh died of stomach cancer. Roy eventually took a job as the prison barber, but soon his paranoia gave way to
These guys just
Wait,
love cutting
Which
hair.
one was
really
it? Ray
do.
whose eyes went?
blind Roy.
Blind Roy
Yeah.
is barbering at the
oh,
The
yeah.
whole prison
In
has
prison?
shitty haircuts.
Well, it's everybody in prison.
slicing everyone's throat.
Fucking
The
shit.
worst thing about prison isn't the fucking train horns. It's this fucking do, and they all have
I
a
know.
flock of seagulls.
What do you call this? I call this the scarred scalp.
Yeah.
Ow.
But soon his paranoia gave way to full-on schizophrenia. He would stare at the walls and babble incoherently. Eventually, after he had to be subdued by 6 guards, he was transferred to the state mental institution in Salem, the same place he had worked as a young
I
man.
was just
Oh,
gonna
wow.
ask.
Later, that same place would also serve as the actual set for the filming of
One
One
Flew
Flew
Over
Over
the
the
Cuckoo's
Cuckoo's
Nest.
Nest.
Whoa! Whoa! This story really hits home, bro.
It gets even crazier because after Roy continued to get worse, the doctors eventually performed a frontal lobotomy.
Lobotomy? Oh, my goodness.
They
Remember
one fluid hit the
those?
fuck out of him.
Yeah.
Man,
Remember those?
Yeah.
the only thing I've ever wanted to do more than ride the rails is get a fucking FL.
Right, bro?
I call them FLs.
Yeah,
I call them FLs.
Do you think about
You want me
chill
to
your
use an
life would
acronym
be?
so
I ain't
well
got
that
that kind of
the front of
time.
your
I ain't got
brain.
that kind of time.
He was finally granted parole for some reason in 1983.
To do what? Walk around chewing his bottom lip?
Yeah. He passed away 3 months later.
3 days. He passed away an hour and a half after.
These guys
they
had
were-
shit lives.
Yeah.
Ray was released in 1961 and took a job as a part-time janitor at the University of Oregon. In 1973, he returned to Tunnel 13 to help film a TV documentary about the 50th anniversary of the crime.
Wow.
These criminals become stars sometimes.
In fact, a Southern Pacific train stopped during the filming, and like some of the guys got out and were like, "Oh, I kind of heard your name before," and shook his hand. Some of the guys were like, "Nah, bro, fuck you, Southern Pacific, what's up?" And they wouldn't even talk to him because they were still like
they're like gangsters.
Yeah.
over the line.
I mean, are you the same person though? Like 50 years later, after even if you killed somebody, like
All your
It still
cells
seems pretty
replace in your body
offensive.
every 7
I'm
years.
not trying to get all hippie. I'm just saying psychologically speaking. You know?
So I mean, no, even physically you're not because your whole
I guess
bodies are
you're right.
generated by now. You know.
All right.
In fact, the only thing that's still the same is your brain. So maybe you are.
So Hugh was the one who died of stomach cancer?
He died of stomach cancer.
Okay.
And Roy had his brain chopped up.
Yeah.
And
So Ray's the one
Ray
left.
turned into a janitor who
Okay.
also taught French and Spanish at like a church in his spare time. And he died in 1984.
Wow.
All 3 brothers are buried together in Salem, Oregon.
And I was born in 1985, which means his soul is inside me.
Yeah, I got that.
How many times have you said that?
I noticed how angry you were at points during this
We
episode.
kind of felt that. Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not gonna let you near my trains.
We already waited
Really
a whole year.
empathizing. Really empathizing.
Waited a whole year and then found your soul.
Who do I want to be
I
inside
know.
of?
That's how souls work, dude.
I guess so.
They float in a realm around whenever they want, and they go
Yeah.
like, "I'm going in."
That's
You know?
that's it, guys. That's the story of Hugh, Ray, and Roy DeAutremont.
Wow.
Wow.
From all.
Can you start over? I kind of wasn't paying attention just from the beginning. From the beginning.
Well, someone's wobbly, and then they beat each other. I almost had a jerk off joke there, and I lost it.
Wobble, wobble.
I blame the depression for that.
Good point.
I think they would have done other things had they been able to stay lumberjacks or whatever else.
Well, really, when I said that riding the rails and the hobo lesson, it threw the whole thing off, because if he doesn't join the Wobblies, he doesn't get arrested in Oregon as part of that protest, and then his brother doesn't come to try to like help him out. In prison is where he actually like got the idea of doing the robbery. Doing the original bank robberies, because his cellmate was like, "Hey man, bank robberies are super easy," and he was already this like social Marxist anarchist who was like, you know what? They don't need the money, we need the money, and so all of it if he just hadn't taken a hobo socialism class, he probably would have been fine.
Yeah.
So you guys are both saying they're a victim of circumstance. No, there's no need to.
I feel that way
for their actions.
Well, I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying for or against. I'm just saying they're.
I'm not saying they're not culpable, but I'm saying like.
Do you feel like anybody could just be capable of what they did because if
look,
they're
you're at a party.
Yeah.
I do.
You're at a party and there's two doors, and if you walk to the left, there's a bunch of people playing like Mario Kart or whatever on a Nintendo Wii. And if you walk into the right,
a Nintendo Wobble.
Yeah, there's people wobbling on the left,
Wii?
and then on the right hand side, you walk in the right hand door, and everyone's doing blow. Like whichever you walk in one of those two doors, you're like, "Hey, let me join the party," and that decision can change the entire night and then change everything else.
Go
It's a no-brainer.
Go get a little blow. Go back to the room with Wii.
100%.
There you go.
get coked up and you play
Right?
video games all night.
Am I hired?
You know
Did I
what?
pass your aptitude test?
I did pitch that wrong.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah, you really kind of did.
Yeah,
Now I
that's
feel
fair.
like getting coked up and doing Nintendo games.
Today's sources include. Today's whole story is actually sourced from the DeAutremont brothers, America's Last Great Train Robbery by Margaret LaPlante, and of course the evil robots.
But
Wikipedia.
we've learned to love them.
Margaret C. LaPlante.
I don't.
William J. Lepetemu.
Guys, where can they find you, and how can people find 92.7 The Pod?
iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's up. It's going to be up on All Things Comedy this week, I believe. Did they put the first one up yet? I haven't looked.
I don't know.
Do you know?
Nope.
How professional are we? But yeah, iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Tell them what they're getting, because it's a really cool idea.
Yeah, how would you describe
Yeah, so it's a parody morning radio show that's kind of sketch style, and it's about a fake town called Town.
Yep. It's a fake. It's like a sketch show, really.
Yeah.
But it's like a fake morning radio
Fake
show
commercials,
about a fake town.
interviews.
Can you guys throw some ads in for the Leaky Shack?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Hell yeah.
Leaky Shack would be wonderful in town.
So check out 92.7 The Pod, anywhere you can get podcasts.
Yep.
Yeah,
and you can
guys.
follow these two on social medias at
the Teeb on Twitter and at 92.7 The Pod on. Isn't that what it is? That's what it is, right?
Sure.
927
Yeah.
The Pod on also on Twitter. You can find us there. And
I'm at No Salt Sarah, which is my margarita order before you ask.
I wasn't sure if you had a sodium
I
problem.
always forget. No, I always forget.
I always ask for extra salt. So
I like a medium amount of salt.
you can follow our show on all social medias at CRiiiI Crime Pod with crime with 3 eyes. You can also email the show crimepodcast@gmail.com. We've actually gotten some cool story suggestions, which
yeah,
we'll be
thank
bringing
you
your
guys
way
for
pretty
that.
soon. So you'll be hearing some of those. You can send us story suggestions, questions you have, dick pics, label those for Shevsky.
Who gave us that one suggestion, the one that we were talking about recently?
We'll actually be doing
We
that
should
one.
shout out to that lady or gentleman.
We'll do that top of the episode. This would be great.
Okay. We'll say it at the top of the episode.
Also, yeah, because I didn't write it down.
Well, thanks to everyone. Well, Lupe, my
Yeah,
sister-in-law
and
gave
we'll
me
always write you
another
back when you
one
write us
too,
with stuff. So hit us up.
So will I.
Yeah. So Teeb will write back on our behalf a lot of the time too.
Yeah.
And stay out of crimes, guys. Don't be bad.
Commit a lot of crimes so we can have more stories to do.
Nope. Be decent humans. Live a good life.
And if you have a chance, go ahead and give us that 5-star rating and review on iTunes. It helps out a lot.
Oh, and those of you that have, thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you
a
so
lot.
much.
You are fantastic.
Please hit the share button. Send it to one friend that you think might listen to this show.
And
Or harass someone that you think that would hate
And
the
coming
show.
up in a couple of weeks, we will have some very exciting news about 2018. Got some very cool stuff coming your way. So
That's
so
right.
stick around.
believe
Sladen's
it's
finally
almost
getting his
2018.
penis enlargement surgery.
A
He's
little
going to feel
tease.
okay in the pool.
Yeah, I'm really just stapling ham to my dick, but it's not a big deal. Bye, robot.
Bye, guys. Peace out. We love you. Thank you.
Suck it.
That's how you want to end this episode, too, man? Telling people to suck
Big
your
time.
dick.
Everybody.